Hello transcribers. Today's exercise is a very valuable one, I think, because it can help you to add value to your transcripts and make them more useful to your clients with very little effort on your part. Now, in my time, I've proofread probably thousands of transcripts, and I notice similar issues coming up time and time again. And sometimes those issues weren't even mistakes, they weren't even things that were wrong, but they were places where an opportunity had been missed to add value. So today we're going to look at 14 of those issues, and I strongly recommend that you do all 14 because they really are helpful. Just before we start, here's a very brief message from our sponsor, the FTW Transcriber, about just one of its features. Tired of typing timestamps manually? Say goodbye to all that with the FTW Transcriber's automated timestamps. As well as pressing F9 to add a timestamp manually, you can set timestamps to be added automatically at the start of every paragraph or at regular intervals. There are other tools to fine-tune the automated timestamps based on your typing style. Huge time saver. Right, let's begin. I'm going to show you a short extract from a transcript, and I'd like you to think about what the issue is with it or how value could be added to it. So, what's the issue with that short extract from a transcript? So, the issue is sarcasm. We don't know if speaker 2 is being sarcastic or not. He may be saying, great that most of the staff made it here on time for the event, or he might be saying, oh, great, 3 of them were stuck in traffic. So you're the transcriber, you heard the recording, you know whether he's positive or negative about it. But if you don't tell the reader of the transcript, then they just don't know. So how do we add value? I would put in an adjective like pleased, if he really is pleased, or sarcastically, if he's not pleased. Or if he tuts, then you can mention that. That would make it clear. Number 2. What's the issue with that transcript? This is a punctuation issue. The issue is comma splice. 2 grammatical sentences can't be joined by a comma. So, she loves classical music, that's a grammatical sentence. Her brother listens to rock, that's a grammatical sentence. You can't put 2 of them together with a comma. A lot of people do it, but it's not correct. So, how do we add value by making it correct? You can either use a semicolon, or you can use a full stop, then a capital letter, and have 2 separate sentences. Number 3. This is another punctuation issue. And the issue is an unfinished sentence followed by a comma. In the transcript, the difficulty we encountered was, that's an unfinished sentence. And after an unfinished sentence, you can't put a comma, you have to put an ellipsis, which is 3 dots. So that's the way to add value there. The difficulty we encountered was ... for the unfinished sentence, and then start a completely new sentence, which obviously needs a capital letter. Again, very, very common for people to put commas, but it's not correct. Number 4. What's the issue with that transcript? And the issue is inconsistent punctuation. If you look at the word non-profit, the first time it's used without a hyphen. Second time it's used with a hyphen. Now, both of those are correct if you look them up in the dictionary. They're both allowable, but obviously you should try not to be inconsistent. So how do we add value? Be consistent, use non-profit without the hyphen or with, but not a mixture of both. Number 5. What's the issue with that transcript? The issue there is ambiguity. There are two possible meanings of that sentence. We don't know if the speaker is saying it positively, well, that was an experience I'll never forget, or negatively, well, that was an experience I'll never forget. So how do we add value? I would use an adverb in square brackets, enthusiastically or unenthusiastically, or something like that. Number 6, what's the issue with that transcript? The issue there is, again, ambiguous, because we don't know if the speakers are arguing or if they're joking. That's why the photograph shows them facing away from the camera, so you can't tell from that. We don't know if it's, oh, shut up as a joke, or oh, shut up in a nasty way. So how do we add value? Again, use an adverb, I would, jokingly in square brackets, or angrily, if that's the case. Number 7, what's the issue with that transcript? And the answer is, there's no attempt to use a phonetic spelling. So speaker 2 says, we're going to, and then apparently they've said the name of some place which the transcriber doesn't know. So the transcriber has just put down unclear, and that doesn't help anybody. So what should you do? Type a phonetic rendering of the word as best you can. So if you type something like this, we're going to Acapulco, obviously that's not how you spell Acapulco in Mexico, but at least the transcriber has had a go at it, and now the reader can look at Acapulco, spelled incorrectly, and from that they'll know what the speaker actually said. That's much more helpful this way. If you just put unclear, then in order to find out what the place was, the reader has to go and find the recording and listen to it themselves. Number 8. What's the issue with that transcript? The issue is this: a known word is missing unnecessarily. So if you look at those 3 sentences, look at the third one, it's quite clear from what speaker 1 says the second time. We're really not sure that a pergola is the way to go. It's quite clear that the word pergola is the word that's missing from the second sentence. You can tell that from the context, even without listening to the recording. So how could the transcriber have added value there? Add the missing word once it becomes known. Number 9. What's the issue there? The issue is that it is pejorative. In other words, it's criticizing the speakers. If you say garbled and mumbles, then that's criticizing the speakers, saying that they haven't spoken clearly. Even if that is the case, it's not a good idea to criticize the speakers. They might be the people who are ultimately paying you. And they might read the transcript and they might think, well, no, I didn't garble, you just didn't listen carefully to what I said. So what's a better thing to do? Don't criticize the participants, use a word like unclear. Play it safe. Number 10, you can skim read this one. So what is the issue there? The issue is that it's unstructured. So here we have a situation where a speaker is going to be speaking for probably quite a long time, and he's going to make 15 key points. And that is going to be one awfully long paragraph if you don't break it up into paragraphs. So I would break it up into paragraphs. Also, he says, the text of my speech today will be included in an email. So if you transcribe one long paragraph of 500 lines, it's very likely that whoever sends out that email will have to break it down into paragraphs anyway in order to make it readable. So you can add value to the transcript by saving them time and breaking it down into paragraphs yourself. One paragraph for each point. Firstly, new paragraph, then secondly, new paragraph, and so on and so on. So how to add value? Use paragraphs. You wouldn't do that for every transcript, but you should do it here because it's one person speaking the entire time and their speech easily breaks down into points. Number 11. What's the issue with that transcript? The issue here is non-specific speaker IDs. The transcriber knows the names of all of the speakers because they tell them the name. But they've just used speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, and so on. And that might be clear enough right at the beginning of the transcript where the reader can see all the names, but by the time you're on page 10, you've forgotten who speaker 1 is and speaker 2 and so on. So the way to add value, ID the speakers throughout the transcript. And you could either type their whole name, or you could just use their initials or something, but be careful with using initials because you can have two speakers with the same initials if there are lots of them. If you do just use the initials, then have a key at the beginning of the transcript, like CS equals Carl Stevens. Number 12. Right, which of those two transcripts is better? Well, I'll tell you, transcript 2 is better, but why? So the issue with transcript 1 is the reason for the missing words is not given. The transcriber has used the word unclear in the places where they couldn't make out the missing words. But in transcript 2, the transcriber has given the reason. Couldn't make out the words because there was background noise or crockery noise or coffee machine noise. That's not pejorative. It's not insulting the speakers. It's giving a valid reason why they couldn't make out the words. In transcript 1, if you just use unclear, then the reader of the transcript might think you just couldn't be bothered to try hard enough to make out the missing words. In transcript 2, a reason is given. How do we add value? We give the specific reasons for missing words. This is also helpful to the reader of the transcript because they'll get the hint from that next time they should conduct the interview in a less noisy place. Number 13. Now, there are two spelling mistakes in that transcript, but how could they be avoided? Yes, the issue is the failure to use the spell checker and the grammar checker. So in the transcript, SEA should be SEE, obviously, and a grammar checker would have picked up on that and highlighted it as you're typing. And then the word vibrant is obviously spelt wrongly, and a spell checker would have picked up on that. So how do we add value? Set your word processor to always check spelling and grammar as you type and do a full check at the end. It seems obvious, but you might be amazed how many people don't do that. And lastly, number 14. Which of those two transcripts is better? Slightly trick question because it depends. There are different types of transcript for different types of purpose. So if you're transcribing something that's going to be used for a television program or a radio program, then they might want you to include all the ums and ahs, to do it verbatim, in other words, and to note the pauses because they might want to cut some of those pauses out. But if you're transcribing something that's going to end up as a written document, they don't want to read all the ums and ahs. They would want you to do what I call smoothing it out, or some people call it intelligent verbatim. So the answer, which is better, neither is better. It depends on the purpose of the transcript, and it also depends on the instructions that you're given by your transcription company. And that's it. So well done for making it all the way to the end. I hope that was helpful. It's very important to note that none of my recommendations override the house style guide that you're working to. So obviously, if I advise you to do something and your transcription company instructs you to do it differently, then do what they say, not what I say. And on that note, goodbye until next time.